Move the table just like that.
Like this? Is
Live, yeah.
that good?
Yeah.
We here?
Hello, everyone. We all here? I was sending people from Instagram. We got the squad fam here. What's up? Everybody drop a hello in the chat. So where you're from? I can't see you, but Mike is moderating this live stream. Cut to you, Mike. Say hi. That's Mike. I also have Braxton and Steven over in the corner here.
Hi.
Hey everyone, how we doing?
Welcome back to Rally Caps.
Nope.
That's my line. Hey everyone, welcome back.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, wide. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So we got it's a vibe in here tonight. We have
You should pull up your phone just to
so I can see it.
Yeah, so you can just kind of see the text
Oh.
and stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so we have 4 different camera angles. You want to cycle through them again real quick?
Eric.
Yeah.
Me. Everybody.
This is fun. We wanted to run a live tonight. Okay, so as you all might know, I launched the classroom this week. That's what we're doing this whole week. We're, marketing it, selling it, all that good stuff. And when I consulted a bunch of people who have done courses before, they're like, you got to push people to a webinar. You got to do a pitch on the webinar and then make a sale or whatever. It was really hard for me to kind of jump in on that and feel the desire to do that. Kind of my nature of the YouTube channel already is to teach and do tutorials and all that good stuff already. And so since that was the case, I'm like, I don't know what else I need to teach you outside of the content that's in the classroom. And so I really just wanted tonight to be fun. So we decided to do this whole live stream with all of us in here. All these guys worked on the classroom with me. So we can answer questions about that if you'd like, but we also just want to answer questions about business and stuff. And just hear what you guys are dealing with your business and, photo, video, all that good stuff. Just to push this live stream out to more people. If you guys could give it a like, that would be really helpful. So that just always lets people know who follow my channel that this is happening, and you can like it, and then they'll see it on their homepage and all that good stuff. So I did ask earlier today on Instagram some Q&A stuff, just asking if people had questions. And so I guess we could open with that. And then once we kind of chat through some of these things, I'll kind of pitch it to these guys as well. We can hear from their experiences and their businesses because they do some of the same exact stuff that I do. And we all are a bit different in the way we approach things. So we can give a bunch of different answers, and then we can open it up to Q&A here as well and just chat about things. So yeah, you want to go over to the slide deck, Mike? We can start answering some questions from Instagram. Well, I see it on my. Oh,
It's backwards.
ooh,
Give
Q&A.
me a sec. A and Q. Q and A. Here we are.
Okay, so let's see. I'm just waiting for it to pop up. Ooh, that's me in the corner. Do you want to go to the?
Yep,
Wait.
I got you.
Oh, okay. I'm just still seeing Q&A.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there it is.
You're
Okay, it's just a little
delayed.
delayed. Okay, so first up we have Tyler F. Kyle. He asked, how do you post on social media as a wedding filmmaker? In the classroom, love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for purchasing it, Kyle. I'm stoked to hear that you're loving it so far. So in module 10 in the classroom, I talk about this a ton. I can touch on it here. Basically, this is going to be abbreviated of things that I teach in the classroom tonight, and then getting experiences and kind of perspectives of Mike, Braxton, and Steven as well. As far as being, it's interesting for me because I feel like I almost strictly post photos on Instagram and not necessarily video all the time. But what I would recommend to get the most real estate in the way the platform is designed right now is to do different edits in 4x5. So that tall, so just making a Premiere project that is 4x5, and I believe those dimensions are 1080 by 1440, 1440 by 1080, whichever the long one is first. 1080 by 1440, and then that you could post that as an actual clip within your grid on Instagram. Or you could go the route of posting a section of it to your stories and pushing people to Vimeo or to your YouTube channel, or even just doing a full IGTV or Instagram Reels. And in the Instagram Reels case, you're 9:16.
I'm gonna jump in. I think somebody who does that really well is Hunter Floyd.
Yes, Hunter Floyd.
Hunter
yes.
does a phenomenal job. So what's his Instagram? Just Hunter Floyd?
Hunter Floyd Films. Let me look it up.
Yeah, if you look that up, he's always posting little snippets of stuff on social media, whether it's a single clip or he makes just like a little 15-second montage.
Mhm.
He does a phenomenal job.
Hunter Floyd Films. HUNTERFLOYD Films.
Spell films for us.
FIL.
LMNOP.
Yeah. But you have to really think about what's going to. So if you go the route with posting reels, what kinds of things are you going to be posting that's going to be interesting to the general public, if you will, and figuring out what that is so that it could have more reach. And that's what I talk about in the marketing without marketing section. Like, what could you do to kind of use social hacking to your favor? Because I've never done traditional Facebook ads or Instagram ads. Have you guys?
Yes,
Never.
I've done Facebook ads.
Okay. What was that like?
Facebook ads is very intimidating if you don't really know how they work and how to actually target people and things like that. It's very convoluted, but also at the same time very powerful if you know what you're doing. Colin Steingard, a good friend of ours, he has a really good YouTube video on kind of like breaking down Facebook ads and kind of just like simplifying it for us wedding photographers. It can be very powerful, but again, you need to know what you're doing,
Right.
and you need to do a lot of like split testing, targeting certain demographics, markets, things like that.
I've never used them. I don't really have any intention to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost feels like when you get to a certain point in your career, I was just talking to John Bunn and Nick Miller about this the other day on how to film weddings, that you get to a certain point of establishment in your career and it doesn't feel like you need to advertise traditionally like that much anymore because your base is so established with client referrals and people going to your website and all sorts of different ways of getting people to your work. But to answer that original question of posting an Instagram, I think the biggest thing is to try to get as much real estate as you can by posting vertical video, which is hard because you're probably editing all your films in 16:9 or a wide aspect ratio like 2:3:5 or 2:3:9:1. So it just takes that extra step of like, once you're done with the film, then bring it over to a new sequence and shoot something vertical so you could share it on social. Sick. Maybe you just read me the questions because they're kind of delayed on
Most effective marketing method.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, for me, the most effective marketing method has been treating my clients above and beyond what other vendors, how other people treat them, and taking care of them even better than what the status quo is. So like going above and beyond and finding a song that's their favorite or the one that's like for their first dance and playing it during portraits, or like getting them a gift or getting them something that's nostalgic, or playing music while we're doing portraits, or going out of my way. Like this past weekend, it was just like chaotic at the wedding we were shooting. Steven can attest, he was second shooting with me. And like there was this moment where it was the bride getting ready to do a first look with her dad, and the groom was like coming on a bus, and like it was chaos, and everyone's like, we gotta go, like hide her. And I'm like, I was the only voice of calm in the moment. And she was having this incredible moment with her aunt. And someone was like, you gotta get her out here to go get the first look with dad because he's gonna see her and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, hold up. They're having a moment. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't just like jump into this moment. It's incredibly emotional and it's important and it needs to happen. And then once that was done and in a place where I'm like, okay, hey, we need to go see dad now. We went and we saw dad. Another unbelievable moment that needed to happen, super emotional. But then as soon as that was over, I kneeled down to her and I just said, hey, like, it's chaos right now. I'm sure you feel it. But what I want you to know is that I'm fighting for you and I'm advocating for the moments you just had with those two special people, like those two very important people. I don't want you to get like rushed to the next thing when we don't have to do that, because this stuff is more important right now. That kind of stuff has been the reason why I think so many of my clients have reached out to their friends and their family to then be like, you need to book this guy because you're going to have an experience. And then they get the photos, then they get the film, and they're like, those in combination has been some of the only marketing I've ever needed.
And something I'll add, actually, I had to go run and grab Julian when
Oh,
that
yeah.
happened. Yeah, I had to go grab him and like drag him back outside. But going back to Facebook ads, this works really well, and Eric touches a lot of this on marketing without marketing.
Module 10.
Module 10. Facebook. This is where Facebook ads really shine. Is that style of marketing and that approach does really well when you have like a base of operations set up and you're very established within an area. So obviously Eric is really established within Chicago, and that works great. But if you're someone who's looking to move to a new area or is looking to shoot in a certain area, that's where Facebook ads really shine. Is
Braxton, you are killing it, man. You want to know what the next question is? The next question: best way to branch out in other areas.
Let's go.
Okay,
You
well,
are killing that.
going
Keep going, bro.
going to that, if you're creating Facebook ads that
Great
target Colorado Rockies area, shine. When I was actually moving, so I moved from Mississippi to this area, I already knew like, hey, I'm going to have to find a whole new base of clientele. And so that's when I started my marketing approach of creating Facebook ads, targeting people here in the area. And of course, also leaning in what makes me different within my marketing approach and showing them what I have to offer through those Facebook ads. You can make Facebook ads very personal. You can make them, feel like you're actually talking to them, and you can have call to actions through messaging. And it works really well when you don't really have a base of operations or you're looking, work elsewhere.
Also, go ahead, Mike. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, another key thing that's worked really, really well and is underrated is blogging. Literally, like, blog with good keywords. Use alt text on your website. Like, it's weird how many people find me on Google just because I don't blog. My wife blogs for us. It's underrated. It's really, really helpful. Back to you, Eric.
Well, to then go off of what Braxton was saying, like Braxton is a prime example of what is possible when you lead with value and you lead with like actually going after something. So he had been following my YouTube videos for years, and he was always the person in the comment being like, here for the algorithm. Like every time I posted a new video, Braxton was in the comments talking about here for the algorithm, making the algorithm joke.
Yep.
And what was crazy is he actually came and visited Chicago. And I thought that was nuts. I was like, whoa, you're from Mississippi. You came all the way up here. Like that, you're showing some dedication of like wanting to get connected. And when he came here the first time, he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to move here. And I was like, no way. And that was actually after an Instagram live where I was like trying to convince you to move here. And I think in that Instagram live, I was saying there's plenty of work to go around in this market.
When he said that, and he was like, if you came to Chicago and you actually worked, we would take care of you. Yep. It was literally right then when I was like, okay, I'll move.
Yep. And I think a lot of people hear something like that and they go like, there's too much risk. But the fact that he was just like, I see opportunity. And more than just seeing opportunity, you didn't just expect stuff to fall in your lap. You then came here and like immediately injected yourself into the community. And now you are tight with everyone here.
And I'm like here on this live stream.
Everyone here. And you are second shooting every single weekend. You're now working for me with editing. And now we're going to be like, after the classroom is done, like we're going to be building your own portfolio while still working with me, a hybrid combination of that. And Steven's another example of that as well, of coming from Boston and meeting me 3 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago now.
No, just like over a coffee date with my wife.
It was
like
and your wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not you and my wife.
No.
It was like a tricycle date. That's a weird.
So who was third wheeling?
Third wheel. That's the common.
Sabria, definitely Sabria. But clearly that has ended up with rally caps, and like now all of us are working together on the classroom, and it's just I went down a big deep rabbit hole on that one. But it was
a way to branch out in other areas.
So my response to that question is like, yes, Facebook ads can work. Yes, Instagram ads can work. But again, I see that as something that is so temporary. And so what I love to teach and what I love to say is like, what can be sustainable long term, which is like always my goal and philosophy in business and in my specific business, but teaching other people how to grow their business is like, what can you constantly think about that's sustainable and will drive you to that next thing long term? And for me, that's community and building a base of relationships in the place where you want to work mostly. And these guys made it very clear. It was like, I want to build a base in Chicago. They came here and they came with value, being like, I'm ready to work. I'm ready to edit. I'm ready to like do a bunch of different things so that I could support myself and my family. And then, you know, like Steven's married with 2 cats, and that's always the running joke. And Braxton just got engaged too.
Yes, he did.
And so like these guys are going to be thinking about like, what does it look like for starting their families in the near future as well? And what kind of base would they be building in that process?
Starting a family is strong. I do have 2 cats, like you just mentioned.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's pretty expensive already.
Yeah, you have a dog.
I do have a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Ophelia. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna take some live questions here. Jesse, 16-year-old. Okay.
Whoa.
Wow.
We have Jesse. He's a
Epic.
16-year-old. Don't know if you'll see this or not, but I'm 16 years old. Who wants to get started and when? Sorry, I'm bad at reading sometimes. I have no idea how to get clients with no experience at a young age. What's your advice?
Yeah, it can be very difficult to start something when you're that young. I totally understand. And I don't know what state you're in or what country you're coming from. And it can be very different and tons of variables in different places. But I think right now the best thing to do is like, you still are a teenager. I legitimately believe that like you don't need to be working full time at this point. I think that's a time in your life where it's like relationships with your peers are super important, and still building that and not losing out on that. Like those high school years are super important for like understanding how the world works and building relationships with people that are your age, but then also looking to mentors, to people who are older than you from that perspective. But it's a healthy balance of that. Plus like, yeah, you can totally get after being an entrepreneur that early. And at that time, I had no sense of what it would look like to work for myself. I didn't start even dreaming about that until I was 19 or 20. And I was just working at Panera Bread and another restaurant in college. And you already have 5 steps ahead of most people that want to become entrepreneurs, you know, who are doing it into their 20s or into their 30s. And so right now is an amazing time, with whatever free time you might have outside of your social life and your family life, to find second shooting jobs or to set up your own styled shoots and to fill a portfolio and make a bunch of things, and to repeat practice. Because those initial years, those first 2-3 years as a creative, are so important in understanding technical things and creating your own creative voice. And so when that happens that young, you can hit the ground running when you're 18, 19, 20. And that's when people really start taking you seriously, when they want you, you know, to be shooting weddings. I'm going to point it to Braxton and put him on the spot, because he is a prime example of all of this.
Yeah. So I actually wasn't 16 that long ago.
Yeah. Like how long ago?
It was what, 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm 21.
You're 21 now.
So my biggest thing, so I started when I was 15. I went full time at 17. And then, you know, like by the time I turned 19, 20, by the time I was 20, I had associates, and I was starting to build out my wedding team, and then I was moving into commercial work.
But how did you do that?
I did all of that through lots of trial and error. Back then, even though like I kind of grew up like in the golden age of YouTube, you know, but like even still, yeah. What's up? No. Speaking of what's up, I think the issue is that like we were lacking a lot of wedding education. Even though there was a lot of photo education, it was a lot of like broy Peter McKinnon stuff. No offense to Peter McKinnon.
He's a legend.
He is a legend. Yes.
No, much respect here.
Much respect to Peter McKinnon.
We joke about that. Everyone jokes about that. He's unbelievably talented.
Yes.
Leave it on our podcast.
But the problem was that we had very little wedding education, and not only that, but I was also very stubborn, and I was very much figure it out on my own. And so I did a lot of trial and error. I failed a lot. I lost a lot of money. The biggest thing though was that I didn't, even though like I did all that sounds cool, I didn't learn technical photography and filmmaking until 2019, 2020. And that's like, I sat myself down and I was like, okay, if I'm going to be successful at what I'm doing at my age, I need to know what I'm talking about. And I need to be able to show up on set or wherever I am and actually know what I'm doing instead of just relying, because I was always a pretty creative person. And I need to stop relying so much on just creativity, but also having like a solid foundation of knowledge on how to operate my camera, how to make things look good. So yeah, lots of trial and error, and yeah,
I love that.
lots
That's
of
great.
making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and trying to be better.
Yeah.
Shooting a bunch, just like picking up my camera, making an effort to pick up my camera every single day.
Love that. I have a great next question. Do you mind if I jump in?
Go for it.
This is a great question because people are always wondering. We always talk about, client experience. What does that mean? Oh, how do we create this client experience? Hey Films asks, what are some tangible ways to add client experience? I want to wow them every step of the way. And I figured we could just literally all jump in and talk about some tangible things that we do for client experience. I'll start since I have the floor. My wife is awesome. We're a husband-wife team. One thing we do is when we get an inquiry, we hit them up pretty much right away if we can. And we say, hey, I'd love to jump on a call with you. We're available right now if you are. And if that's possible for you at that moment, that's great. We don't do it all the time when we're with our family and spending time together. But if we're working, we get an inquiry, or if our kids are asleep, we get an inquiry, we jump on. That's client experience. They love that. They're clearly working on it right now. They're working on it. They're wedding planning right now. If you can meet them right where they're at, we've literally gotten on the phone with them within like 5 minutes and they book us. That's one thing. We've set up a CRM, a client relationship management, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And once they book us, they get emails every month from us, basically giving them tips and tricks. And then basically at the end of every email that feels very personal, we ask them, do you have any questions for us? We've been to a lot of weddings. We've seen a lot of stuff. Do you have any questions for us? Because we're here for you. Like, that's one way. Another thing, day of, I'm selecting photos on my camera all day and just making like stars on them on my on my camera all day. At the end of the day, I transfer them to my phone. Literally, I do this every wedding. I transfer them to my phone. I do a quick visco edit. It usually takes me, this is why I shoot right first. I shoot right in camera. I tend to set my white balance because I want the photos to look good so I can edit so easily. I edit them on my phone that night and I text them to them. Not only do I do that, I then print out on a little Instax printer, Instax from my camera. So I didn't have to bring another camera on, and I give them to them while they're eating dinner because it takes me literally like 15 minutes throughout the day. In between moments, I'm just editing them and I hand them to them at the end of the day. They're always so wowed. And that for us is like what I look at with client experience, being available for them to talk to when it's appropriate for my life. I'm not always available, but I can be available a lot of times. I try to treat everybody like I want my family to be treated. And then I'm available to them throughout monthly step, and I wow them the day of. And the photos are like, you have to be good too. Like, focus on your craft to take photos right and then wow them. Yeah. Anybody else wants to go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very similar. I use the Fuji Instax camera throughout the day. I usually have my second shooter or assistant taking those all throughout the day. I'll grab the camera when I can, and dropping that on the table is just one of the best feelings.
They almost cry every time.
Yeah,
they literally do.
Yeah, recently I've had multiple cry, and
I've had multiple planners being like, "What did you just give them?"
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, I just dropped them some Instax. I usually take a photo of it to post it to my stories and stuff." And they're like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." I was like,
yeah, it is. But something else that Mike does really well is he will be intentional and actually take a portrait of the planner. He'll take a photo of the planner, and then at the end of the night, he'll be like, "Hey, you have an iPhone?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Open it up. I'm gonna airdrop you the photo I took of you."
So that's not client experience, but that's one way I try to like get
marketing.
I just try to get in with planners. And I take a nice portrait of them. They want nice portraits in the beautiful reception that they basically created.
Mm-hmm.
I actually also want to harken back to what Mike said about a CRM, because as someone who has gotten married and been through the process of planning a wedding and paying for a lot of things and going through that 6 to 12 month stint, it can be really easy to lose track of all of the things that are going on. There's a lot of payments that are being made and all of that. And a CRM from your end as the photographer helps clear that up and make it just really streamlined and really easy. And that's a way to just keep things a little more organized for them. It's one less thing for them to be worried about or having to keep track of. It's just very easy. It's automated. It's simple. They can pay online and they can get in touch with you really easily as well. I think that's just a really good, easy, and practical thing for anyone who does not have one to invest in tonight if they wanted to and start using and learning how to use because it not only tightens up your workflow and helps you stay more organized and therefore be more presentable to your clients, but also it just makes it easier for them to keep track of everything so that they don't have to worry about, okay, cool. I'm not concerned about when I have to get Eric paid on time. It's just going to be taken care of and it's going to be easy. And it's just going to be a simple process. So I think that's one thing that makes your life easier and their life easier. So it's kind of a win-win-win.
Michael Scott,
as Michael Scott would say, and Wayne Gretzky would say.
They're hitting us up in the comments going, yeah, that sounds amazing. People are loving it. But what about for a video crew? They can't print off in stacks.
Okay. So that's
a great point.
I haven't done it at all this year, but I did it in 2019 quite a bit, where I just brought a card reader and dumped. I don't know. I would go into Finder and grab 20 clips out of Finder and throw it into a Premiere project. No sound, no audio, just a dip from black into the film and then fade, slow motion, 60 frames per second, 20 clips all the way throughout, fade to black at the end. You don't need any audio because when you play it back to them at the reception, there's DJ music blasting in the background, but it blows their minds.
Insanely blows their minds.
And if you get good enough at editing where you can just throw 20 clips in the timeline
and you can create a system, I'm grabbing a clip from here, I'm grabbing a clip from there, I'm grabbing first kiss, I'm grabbing this, boom.
Yep. It doesn't have to be anything super creative in the moment. It could literally just be this is my template every single time when I do it.
Yep.
And all it takes you is 10, 15 minutes to cut it together. Boom, export. Maybe you just hit export, run down and go shoot the next thing, come back up. That's totally something you can do in your downtime. Most people have 30 to 45 minutes for dinner.
And bring sometimes, I always have a second shooter with me when I'm shooting video and when I'm shooting photo. I either bring a second shooter or I bring an assistant if they didn't book a second shooter on my own dime to make sure I can take care of them.
And if you get to the point where you can hire an assistant, and to be honest, you can easily pay someone who has basic editing skills. You could literally teach your friend how to do this easily in 30 minutes or an hour some random day, and then bring them to a wedding and pay them $20 an hour to be there for 4 or 5 hours. And then they're just doing stuff like that for you, where they just cut together this really easy edit.
Yeah, that $100 you spend is priceless.
Exactly, because that experience is then going to book you 3 more weddings, and then all of a sudden you have this piece of content that you could then post to your Instagram or have a little thing that you just share online. And it's invaluable when you make those kinds of moves. You could even go above and beyond that, and then all of a sudden you bring a projector and all of a sudden you're projecting that onto the wall, and then all the guests are seeing it, and you airdrop it to the planner again, and then they have a video to share. Whenever you make moves like that, you will wow people. You will blow their socks off, and then they are going to talk about you in ways that they don't talk about anybody else in the industry.
It all goes back to, I always say this backwards, under promising, over delivering. There we go. Yep.
Good job.
Okay. Yep. Y'all thought I was going to say something else?
You got all quiet and you're ready to deliver another line. You're yep, that's all I want to say.
I do want to say something. I've had a little time to think. I'm not going to drag on this question any longer. I hope that 16-year-old is still in the chat. I'm going to lose sleep over this if I don't say this. My biggest mistake at your age was I was very goal driven, very motivated, too motivated to the point that I sacrificed a lot of my younger years to reach goals. And I missed out on a lot of relationships. I missed out on a lot of life milestones. I missed out on being involved in others people's lives. And I honestly, not to get really deep on y'all, but I live with a good bit of regret that when I was 17, 18, 19, that I missed a lot of things. And even though it's good to be have goals, to be motivated, but at the same time, understand that your moment will come, your opportunity will come, and you will kill it in due time, but also not rushing life.
Yup.
Sheesh.
All right, jumping back into those Instagram questions. What is the best way to open up a sole proprietorship?
Oh, yeah. Wait, it was sole proprietorship. Yeah,
that's what it says. It says sole proprietorship.
Because I know there was another question.
Literally just means you're running a business with your social security number. But
somebody else also asked the best way to open up LLC too later, I believe. So I dive into this deep in the business section of the classroom. It is module 6. And I sit down with my CPA and honestly get clarification points, because when I first became when I became a business, I became a business as a sole proprietor. It's called a DBA, doing business as, and it's doing business as Eric Floberg. So yes, I just was working off my social security number. I didn't have an EIN, which is an employment identification number, which is what you get when you incorporate. But this, as a sole proprietor, you're taxed at a certain bracket. It makes sense to be a sole proprietor when you're making a certain amount of money.
Talk to your accountant.
Yes, 100%. You should be. Anytime you start making any kind of significant money,
which is like 50K, 40K.
I would even say 30, 25K.
Okay, sure, okay.
Like when you start getting into like a low salary paying job as your side hustle, that's when you should start talking to a CPA. A CPA is a certified public accountant. Okay, so it's just a fancy acronym for an accountant and someone who knows what they're doing. I worked with someone early on where she just had no idea what my capabilities were or what my potential was. She knew that I was a classroom teacher and I had this wedding business on the side. And I think one of the first conversations we had, she's like, how much money are you making with this? I was like, at this point, it's like, I don't know, I've maybe made 20 grand doing it. She's like, okay, cool. We'll just kind of leave it as it is. You'll be a DBA, you're a sole proprietor. We'll tax you based on your social security number, all that stuff. And then the next year she was not checking in with me. She was not asking questions. And that next year, I think I made like 80 grand in really ramping up my business and taking on a ton more weddings. And when that happened, all of a sudden my tax bill skyrocketed, and she
didn't know what she was doing.
Well, she did. I asked her like, when should I not be like doing this as a hobby or a side hustle as a sole proprietor? When should I incorporate? When should I become an LLC? I've heard people talk about becoming a limited liability corporation to separate my assets and my business versus my personal life. I've heard that that's what you do as like a formal business. She's like, you're not there yet. Like, you're not making enough money yet to do that. And she never checked in with me. So when we got to the point of that year when I owed taxes, I came in thinking, all right, well, I made 80 grand. I'll probably have to pay like 8 grand. I'm assuming, like that's what I was guessing. I mean, and expenses were maybe like 15 grand that year. It was maybe 65 net. And she calculated it all out. And she's like, you owe 18 grand. And I like just about had like a heart attack. Thankfully, I had been just like hoarding away money that year in savings, and I had enough to pay that. But it was just like this enormous gut punch. And it was this moment where I'm like, okay, if you're not going to communicate with me and let me know what I need to do for my business as I grow, because I have this self-awareness of seeing where this is going, and I see it going up and I see it being successful. And if you underestimate what I'm capable of, I don't know if I can be working with you, because you're not going to be advocating for me in my behalf. Because when you are a sole proprietor, you're making that kind of money, you get taxed double on the self-employment side. So you have to pay, you are the employer and the employee. So you end up paying 15% in self-employment tax instead of half of that when you do it as a corporation. So don't take the advice from me, but consult with a professional for where you are at personally, because that is the most advantageous thing to do for where you are in your journey in the business process, because everybody's different based on the state they're in, based on the country they're in. Like, I can't even speak outside of the US.
Yeah, we got South Korean here.
Yeah, like
we got Germany in here.
You're right. So you can't take everything I'm saying. You have to take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt based on even your country. But if you're in the States, and every state is different in the States, you need to consult with someone who's local and who knows what they're doing and knows the tax code. And that's basically what we break down in that conversation with Hunter in the business module. And he breaks down what's the difference between an LLC and what's better with an S corp versus an LLC, and what to choose then and there. So yeah.
Yeah,
very complicated.
Somebody jumped in and it's like, I've applied for an LLC. Is it this late in the year? Is it retroactive for the whole year?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Go talk to an accountant.
Not only
We're not an accountant. I pay an accountant a decent amount of money every month so that he can deal with that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
Yep. Yeah. And what's great is like when you have the CPA, anything you get, like I got a letter in the mail today from the IRS, and it was just like, we need your tax return. I'm like, I already did all of that. Like, so all I do is I take a picture, I email it to Hunter, and he's like, oh yeah, we're good. I did this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't even want to deal with that. Yeah. It's your job to do that because I'm hiring you.
A note on accountants. I had an accountant that was a family friend, but she did a lot more like corporate stuff and not like entrepreneur minded. So we ended up switching to a different accountant because not every accountant is good at the same stuff. They don't know what's the new tax law for this, or what are the new ways that you can, like a few years back, you didn't have to. Different accountants know different things. So find somebody who is good at like small business, entrepreneurship, like kind of entrepreneurial minded. All right. Next question. Good ways to grow in community in a city, maybe similar to Creative Club.
I want to pass it to you guys.
Great.
For this one. You're especially you,
Steven, you go first
because you're experiencing it.
What are some good ways to grow a community in a city?
Because we just had a whole Rally Caps episode about this.
We did.
You have some understanding of what it feels like to be here now. You have seen it from afar for a while. Now you're experiencing it firsthand.
True.
What does it take to create and foster something like this? What does it take to sustain something like this? What does it? How does it feel to be a part of this moving forward?
Well, I'll start in reverse. It feels great.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal. Yeah, I came from a small town north of Boston, and I had a lot of friends out there that were in the same genre of business, and it was great. But there was nothing like Creative Club that existed out there. And so moving to Chicago and coming to an office, a studio every single day, and being able to actually see friends and almost more importantly, like peers doing the same thing as me is not only motivating, but it's also in a way like keeping me accountable to actually be doing good work every day instead of just working from home, working from a couch, working from a desk, and like just being accountable to myself. And in a way, there's also kind of like a fire under there too, just like, all right, cool. Like so-and-so is doing a really great job today of like getting through their wedding backlog. Like I want to do the same thing. You know, you just get inspired, and there's just a lot of ideas that are like, they feel very alive in a space like this, which is really exciting. And so in the 2.5-ish months that I've actually lived here, it has been so good for me, for my mental health, for my business, for my creativity across the board. It has just, I feel like I've become a better person because I'm not just working on my own. I feel like I'm actually working as a vibrant part of a community. Now, getting to that community part is a whole different topic because that can actually be very challenging. But I think truly like the way to start is just to be open, like be outgoing and put yourself out there. I'm a pretty naturally outgoing person, so it feels honestly kind of lame to just give the advice of like, oh, just like be outgoing and like just like reach out to people and be intentional with them, be nice, like all that stuff is like, well, that's just kind of like my resting pulse as a human. But if maybe you're feeling that that's not how you work, or if you are, you know, a little more introverted or a little more shy, or, you know, you don't really feel comfortable doing that, I would challenge you to maybe just push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone and where that gets you. You know, reach out to one person, not just like a whole crowd of people. You don't have to start this whole studio. You don't have to create like a whole initiative to get a whole bunch of people together. You can just start with one person. You can just make a friend in your town or in your state, wherever you live. And you can say like, hey, like I'd love to meet up for coffee. We can talk about what it is that we do. And maybe it starts there, and then maybe a conversation forms where it's like, all right, well, the two of us maybe have similar ideas and similar mindsets when it comes to having community within like this creative realm that we're working in. So maybe the two of us could work towards something. And then suddenly it's not just you alone, it's you and a teammate. And it's the both of you working together to build something together, which is kind of how Creative Club started too, way back when, about 4 years ago. It starts one little piece at a time, and it's very easy to get kind of downtrodden when you think like, oh, like what could I do? What difference could I make just me? And the truth is that it's never just going to be one person. It's going to be a group of people, and it always starts with one person. So I'd say be willing to just be that first movement. If there's nothing else happening in wherever it is that you're living, be willing to just put yourself out there and actually pursue that and be that first step. Because once the second domino falls, it's a lot easier to gain momentum. Yep. So whoever you are, however your personality is, whatever you might be feeling, whatever you're going through, I'd encourage you to push yourself just a little bit. Like whatever that may look like for you, just be willing to push yourself outside your comfort zone a little bit and just be that first piece of the puzzle.
I think community also comes with going into community with the right mindset and right intentions. So like when I reached out to Eric, was it 2 years ago, year ago, something like that?
Year ago, yeah.
I didn't reach out to Eric for like help. I didn't reach out to Eric for like clout, anything like that. I reached out to Eric. I wanted to be friends with Eric because I'm a firm believer in you're only going to be who you surround yourself with. Your circle and who you surround yourself with each and every day is probably the most key thing in your development on becoming a better human and a more successful human. And I really just wanted to be friends with Eric because I knew if I put myself beside Eric,
love that.
If I put myself beside Eric each and every day, then I knew that I was going to be capable of really great things because at the point I reached out to Eric, in terms of success, Eric was like way up here and I was way down here. And the same thing for Mike and Steven and Gene and everyone else in the studio.
Don't define success by how much money you make.
Yep.
Yes.
I agree. Very clear.
Success definitely is a lot more. The parameters should a lot be more happiness. I said that very wrongly. But anyway, going in with like community as you want to make friends, like I met Steven.
Whoa, Mike. We're good.
We good?
Good. There's just a lot of cables.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I met Steven back in August?
The night that we moved here was August 9th.
And now we're like best friends.
Yeah.
And it's simply because like
I can't remember a time where I didn't know you.
Exactly. But it was simply because like I really wanted to be friends with Steven, Some people go into community with this mindset that like we're going to band together and we're going to make a lot more money because we're going to get to refer each other and stuff. And that does happen here in the studio. We get to refer each other work and things like that. But going in with the mindset of like, I want to make friends and I want to surround myself with like-minded individuals that will not only propel me into more success, but also propel them into more success as well.
Yeah. We're coming out of a season now where like we have just had like our heads down in work, building the classroom. Like it's been nothing but work. And we're honestly tonight is like, it feels like a really celebratory night for me. And I hope for you guys as well, because it's kind of this sigh of relief of like, let's just chill and talk and hang out because we've all been yearning for that a lot recently. And I don't want that to be lost on anybody listening either, is that like one of the first things I said to you when you started working with me was just like, I want our friendship to be solid and I don't want that to be lost.
Yeah. One of the first things I ever told Eric was that if this ever comes to a point where it feels like our relationship isn't salvageable, I'll quit because I'm much more interested in being your friend than your employee.
Yeah. And we've already had multiple conversations where like, we need to work through this or else it's not going to work, and finding each other in the middle ground and making sure that that's okay. And to go back to the original question of what building community is, it's all about that communication.
Yep.
It's like
real relationships. If
that conflict arises, don't just sweep it under the rug.
No, it's okay.
Right. Like you have to be able to confront that stuff, however uncomfortable it is. Like Mike and I used to get into, like for me, like I left the room at times because it was so hard for me to engage with the conversation we were having. And throughout the years of us understanding each other more and more, we've understood what it means to live in relationship with each other.
I don't know if you mind if I jump in, but
yeah,
we started a YouTube channel together.
Mm-hmm.
We're on pause right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because we care about our friendship more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Yep. And if you're going to start something with other people like Creative Club, that stuff always has to be talked about, and it can't just continue to be swept under the rug. And you might have seasons like we're going through right now where it's just like we haven't had the time to sit down and talk about this. But what's going to be the first thing we do after, like I've already talked about, like we're all going to go to a cabin and we're all going to hang out and just like have a dude's hangout or whatever. And we'll debrief on a lot of the stuff and the stress that it has been to work through a season like this. And there are
yes, we will.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a hot tub.
Okay, next question.
As soon as you said
next question. How much
no, stop.
do you
The first thought that I had when you said dudes was Benj commenting dude soup.
In the hot tub.
I wasn't part of the hot tub club last time.
I wasn't either. I just watched
Yes,
Eric
you
and
were.
Mike in the hot tub.
That's even worse. You had
I
to
know,
watch on
it was
screen.
awful.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but really, next question.
Okay, but briefly, I saw in the comments, going back to the LLC thing,
absolutely.
people are like, it's better. Like a lot of lawyers will tell you go with an LLC because it separates your personal self from your business entity. That's totally true. It's if you get sued, then they can bankrupt your company and not your personal assets and your personal life. That's something to assess as well. Never been anywhere near being sued, but
Don't
you never
do
know
anything to be sued.
You're never know who you're going to run into, and that's just your personal risk assessment.
Also, quick distinction that S Corp and sole proprietorship are two completely different things than LLC. LLC is just there to protect you, whereas sole proprietorship and S Corp and things like that are actual business models.
Yeah, and S Corp. So
S Corp protects you too.
Yeah, S Corp is technically a corporation that's separated, but Hunter breaks that down in the business module of LLCs being a corporation as well. It's it was like I can't really define it because that's not my expertise. But
Hunter
that is his
answers
expertise.
everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The final word on this is we're professional photographers.
Yes.
Not
Go talk to a professional accountant.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Certain CRM that we use, I use Honeybook. Mike uses
Tave.
And then
I use Pixie Set Studio Manager.
I use my brain.
I don't recommend Tave to anybody who is not in the weak of heart. I'm serious. Like it is a beast, but we use it for a lot of our corporate work as well. But it in its beastiness, like literally they get a completely different like workflow if they check a box that says they don't have a planner. Like we are very intense about our email connection and communication with them, as well as some of our corporate clients who are consistent. We have them basically build out all of their own contracts because of the way my wife set all this up, where it's flawless. Tave is huge. Dipsado's huge. What?
I don't know.
Why are you laughing so much?
Because someone just commented, forget the class. I want to pay to get in the hot tub with some dudes.
I mean, I get it.
Adding to the dude soup.
How much?
Oh, wow. No, this is turning into something very different that I wanted to turn into.
It's getting weird. Stop.
Next question.
How much do you pay second shooters?
Oh, yeah. So standard rate in Chicago, I think, is anywhere from $40 to $50 an hour. And that's just a sliding scale. I've paid up to $65 an hour. And that's just totally dependent on your what's the word I'm looking for? Skill level. Yeah, skill level and experience, and making sure it's just a conversation you need to have with your second shooter. And I know it's different in every city and every place, but I think pretty standard in Chicago is $50 an hour.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yep.
That's standard in Boston as well.
Yep.
That's $50
That was
an
even
hour.
standard in Mississippi.
50 was standard in Mississippi?
I paid my shooters.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, here in Chicago, once you become like very, like you do the job, which is appropriate, it's $50 an hour. But I started out at like, I think 35 or 40 when I first started.
Same.
And then quickly moved up to 50. And now just because my time is a little bit more valuable and I don't second shoot as much, I charge 65 or up depending on the day. But
it's so weird because I charge $1,000 an hour and no one ever books
me.
me.
You charge $1,000 an hour?
No
one ever books me. It's weird.
Mike also brings snacks and then runs to convenience and buys water bottles and like it's insane.
I pretty
to have
much
him as
know
a second
everybody's favorite drink.
Yeah.
And I take let's talk about second shooting and what it means to be a good second shooter.
Yup.
So what I am as a second shooter and what I want as a second shooter is I want somebody who's keeping track of the timeline for me so I can be with the client as the lead shooter. I want somebody to get me water. I don't want to carry my bags. I don't want to think about what lens I want. I want them to think about that and them already have it ready for me. And I do that for everybody I second shoot for. I'm trying to read their mind and be one step ahead of them all of the time and trying to think of outside of the picture shots that they can't think of because they're so in the moment and just be exceptional. So don't just be the guy do not be on your phone if you're a second shooter, like except for briefly, like it's fine. But like just try and like love the client really well and love the shooter really well. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just went on a little tangent there. But like you could be exceptional and that will get you so many more jobs because people send me their referrals all of the time because they see how I am as a second shooter. Mm-hmm. Imagine how I am for my actual client.
Yeah, and something I'll add is that because I had a very unique upbringing into weddings, I kind of just like got the opportunity to jump headfirst into lead shooting. I only second shot like twice in my life until I moved here to Chicago. And I second shot for Eric a lot this year. And this is probably one of the biggest important things is knowing who your lead shooters are and what they expect of you and what their expectations are of you. Because like when I first moved here, I second shot for Bean, Aaron Bean, someone here in the studio. He has very low expectations for a second shooter. He doesn't really require you to do anything. I don't
want my second shooter to shoot much, to be honest.
Yeah. Bean, you're just there to be Bean's friend and hang out with him on the day. Mm-hmm. But then I moved to second shooting with Eric a lot. I second shot for Eric like 8 times this year.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. And me and Eric had a lot of friction at the beginning because I came from a lead shooting background and I only knew how to lead shoot and I was focused on shooting. And Eric needed me much more as what Mike has said, more of like an assistant type role than an actual shooter, because when you're really good at what you do, like say Eric and Mike, they get everything that they need. They don't necessarily need a whole lot from their second shooters other than, like doing like taking stress off of them in terms of like needing lenses, needing bags, things like that. So really knowing who you're second shooting for and what their expectations of you are.
And that goes back to our whole conversation about community earlier and communication. More importantly, like when you're working with friends, you just need to be open in communication, like just being clear with one another, being open to confrontation if the need arises, and just being honest, and just that's going to help all of you thrive so much more, and it's going to prevent friendships from being marred or ruined even because you've just bottled everything up. It's just good to just be open, be clear with what your expectations are when you're the one maybe hiring someone else or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Just always keeping communication open so everyone is on the same page is so vital for both your business's health and for your friendships in the process.
100%.
Truth. All right, next question.
Wait, before you do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Anna Lamb commented a question. I want to give her a little bit of priority because she is a student in the classroom.
Anna's the
the classroom.
Like one of my favorite students. I know you're not supposed to say that as a teacher, but I'm not the teacher.
Anna's awesome. Any advice on how to find associate shooters? I have people asking for photo and video packages all the time, but I'm only one person. Recruited my boyfriend for now, but it's not super sustainable. Maybe because he doesn't want to do it long term. Again, that's where the whole community piece kind of comes in.
Exactly.
Where you have a bunch of people who are interested in kind of the same things that you are interested in. And I have 2 associates on my brand right now, and we've been working that way kind of functionally for a year and a half, 2 years. And even if either of those people wanted to drop out, there are plenty of people I'm connected with now who would probably want to step in and potentially do that as well. So it's really all about making more and more and more and more and more connections and constantly kind of keeping your finger on the pulse of, okay, who's at the place where it would make sense for both of us to enter into this agreement where like you're doing that. You're providing a service under my brand, but you're still making enough money where it's helpful for you and it's helpful for me. And Anna, if you're interested in diving into that more, 6 and 7 of the classroom is super important for that part. And I dive into that really deep. So
also,
go ahead.
Wait.
Whoa.
Okay.
Weird.
Also, because you're in the classroom, chat us up in there. Eric and I are both.
Facebook group.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. One of the ways I got connected to the Chicago community was by finding Chicago Facebook groups. So there was like a group of there's probably 3 different groups I was a part of when I started out, and people were like, I need a second shooter for this date. Need a second shooter for this date. And that's how we did it. Also, Anna, you could be just, if he's a good boy, you could become a husband-wife team.
Yeah, someday.
Yeah. Wow. For sure.
Just putting that out there.
Sorry.
One more thing.
It works for me.
And it's like some practical advice. Whenever you shoot a wedding, look out for the people that you really enjoy shooting with.
Totally.
And don't be afraid to ask, hey, would you mind if I threw you a wedding or 2 every now and then? That's actually because I still, again, even though I don't live in Mississippi anymore, I still have an associate filmmaker and photographer on my team that I basically give all my weddings to, that I get inquiries from Mississippi still. And Carolyn, my amazing associate photographer down there, she's so lovely. I love her to death. We shot a wedding together one day, and she was just awesome to work with. She was super funny, very humble and just easy to work with. And I after the wedding, I pulled her to the side. I was like, hey, would you be willing to, when I throw you a wedding or 2, would you be willing to do something like this? And she was totally on board. You just got to be willing to also ask them hey, would you be willing to, do something like this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And Anna, because you're in the classroom Facebook group and because I'm Eric's associate photographer, if you want to talk to the 2 of us about our actual experience, let us know. We'd love to chat.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And also one more, Luke, who's also a student in the classroom, never second shot before. How would you ask someone to second shoot? So to be honest, I get lots and lots of Instagram DMs that are just like, hey, would love to second shoot for you sometime. I'd be willing to fly to Chicago, blah, blah, blah. And I don't say that for that to be some sort of brag or some kind of flex. That's going to happen, if you have a YouTube channel and you have any kind of notoriety like that, I get it. But ultimately, the relationships I build and find people who potentially want a second shoot for me, it's leading with value. It's saying outside of just second shooting, I want to provide this kind of value to you, or I'm interested in this kind of relational aspect, being a part of Creative Club, or, helping out with a YouTube video. That's specific to me in my circumstance. It's not everybody who needs second shooters, like wedding photographers, but always leading with that value, being I would, even before you start second shooting, just be can I be a 3rd shooter, or can I be an assistant on the wedding day? If you're a hybrid film and digital photographer, can I help load film for the day? Can I just carry your lenses or whole bag? Can I shoot some BTS content for you for your Instagram? Any other thing that I can do to supplement your business with asking nothing in return, but just providing value to that person and using that as a catalyst to build a relationship with them. If you treat them well, if you serve them well as that assistant, as that 3rd shooter, as
authentically,
yes, then you will almost assuredly have a foot in the door for potentially second shooting with them, for being an associate for them, for getting referrals from them. That happened to someone with someone near and dear to me now, Tim Tab in Chicago, incredibly established high-end wedding photographer now, who took a chance on me in second shooting early on in the game. And he started handing me referrals. And that's how I got established into the Chicago scene. Is because I showed up and I shot well and I was helpful. And when I led with that, that's what got me more work. So yeah, maybe jump back to Instagram.
Yeah, this is a direct question for you, Eric. Okay. What books do you recommend reading?
I was waiting.
I'll handle this one.
Harry Potter.
So books you recommend. Keep up the great work. Cheers from Germany.
This is the actual question.
This is the actual question. It's
Incredible.
a direct question. They only want Eric
I saw
Silver's.
this on Instagram
Incredible.
earlier, and I was really, I was really hoping to avoid this one.
No, you don't have to answer it.
Do you want to pass it to me?
Steven and I will answer it.
Yes.
I also
Okay,
read
let me
some.
give mine first.
Okay, great. People are like, YouTube Dad reads?
I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Controversial
Well,
hot take.
okay, all right. Wait, let
It's a
him
hot
finish.
take.
Let him
It's a hot
finish.
take. It's a hot take.
Let him finish.
I don't know if it's necessary to need to read.
To learn how to read.
No, I did not say that. I did not say that. I'm saying there are a multitude of different mediums in which, now let me get serious for a second, outside of the joking. I come from a special education background where I had plenty of students who didn't even have the opportunity to read, okay? So that's my perspective on the whole thing. So I have a nuanced perspective, a nuanced opinion on this, that there are a multitude of mediums of ways that you can interpret and understand skills, knowledge, whatever. So that's honestly a huge reason why I started my YouTube channel in the first place, because I knew I connected with that medium and learning in that way. And I was a teacher. And I honestly, I felt the hurt with my students when I had to make them read stuff. I knew the importance of reading. I understood that that is a technical skill that you need in society. But I am the person who honestly questions, is that something we absolutely have to have? This is really getting
no, but I
perspective.
do you have to have it?
No.
But if that is your preferred medium, then by all means.
Yeah, you do want to give people the opportunity to have the skill to have it as an option, undoubtedly.
Great. I will jump in with some great
Sure, go ahead.
recommendations that I have from the last couple of years. A couple of recommendations I have. 3. One is building a story brand. Basically learning how to make your client the hero in your business's story.
Donald Miller.
I'm
Donald Miller.
I'm terrible.
I haven't read it, but I know
offers.
that's
So
that's
building a story brand is phenomenal. And this is, so I'm like Eric, I don't read much. I listen to a lot of the books and I don't want to read much, but there is just so much good information. So in the past 3 years, I've read more books than I've ever read in my whole life, literally. Building a story brand. The E-Myth. Sorry, I won't. I started counting with the wrong fingers. The E-Myth. I actually just flicked off the camera. I'm sorry.
Oops. Sorry. Demonetized.
The E-Myth is phenomenal. It just kind of walks through business structure as well as Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've read all 3 of his books. It's kind of nuts when you start realizing what money is and what money can do. And now passing it off to Steven, because I'm sure he has some recommendations as well.
I do.
Atomic Habits.
Hello. Eric, don't jump the gun.
Okay,
of course,
sorry.
that's a great book.
Okay.
Atomic Habits by James Clear is wonderful. And actually, real quick on the accessibility note of things, books come in audiobooks
I
as well.
listen to audiobooks. I don't read
audiobooks
them.
are phenomenal.
I literally only listen to them while
Okay,
having them in front of
Steven's
me.
talking.
No, it's
I'm just
okay.
saying,
Mike,
it's
what else do you have to
important.
say about
People who don't like
audiobooks?
reading
Chaos.
can listen.
Yes.
Chaos is
Yes.
wonderful.
You can also listen to podcasts like Rally Caps. But like genuinely, I love audiobooks, and that's like half the way that I consume books is by listening to them through like the Kindle app on my phone, like getting credits through there and just being able to redeem books and listening to them is awesome. For me, I actually am kind of 50-50 split between nonfiction and fiction. I really like to listen to nonfiction, and I love to read. Sorry, I said that wrong. I like to listen to nonfiction and read fiction because
that's how I would be.
Yeah, because like for me, I mean,
sense, actually.
like for years and years and years, I just throughout my college years and like early post grad years, I listened to podcasts, and a lot of them were like how I built and like business based podcasts that were very informational and like very in the realm of like nonfiction books like Atomic Habits and Originals by James Grant and books within that kind of genre. And that was a really great way for me to learn. And then I love reading for pleasure as well, like for entertainment. Like reading fictional books is so much fun for me because it's just like it's very much like a movie where you get to dive into a totally different world and just enjoy being in that world. And I honestly, like, I feel more creative as a photographer and podcaster, designer, like whatever that is. Like, I just feel more creative in general after I have read just a fun book, like within the fantasy realm, or like the whodunit murder mystery, like Agatha Christie kind of style. Like, I just think it's really fun, and it gives me more inspiration to jump off of with my photography or filmmaking or, you know, podcasting, whatever that might be, because it's just like a different medium to take inspiration from and then use that to influence the other work that you're doing. That's also why I still love playing guitar. Like, I'm a musician by trade, but like, that's not my profession now, but it still influences the way that I get to make art currently. And like, all of those things just like layer into each other. And I think like reading books, whether that's actually like holding a book in your hands, holding a Kindle in your hands, or just listening to that book, all of that coincides with one another.
I do love that.
Yeah.
And one book that I'll add, I'm one of the biggest Gary Vee fanboys you'll ever meet in your life.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either.
Wow.
I try to hide it because like Gary Vee has gotten like.
You did a great job.
Yeah. Anyway,
we love
Gary Vee's, I think it's his second book. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my hand. It's got is a yellow cover, whatever that book is.
The yellow
Jab,
book.
jab, left hook, left.
No, it's not that one.
Left jab, right hook.
If it might come to my mind.
Left foot,
later.
right stomp.
If you're not going to a garage sale and you're not going to a garage sale and flipping stuff on the weekend, I don't even know what you're doing with your life.
Oh, but his
somebody literally asked, "Can we get a Gary Vee impression?" You are already doing it. That's
but Gary Vee's second book, it's really good on teaching you like how to actually live with perspective and understanding just like how blessed we all are. Especially if you're in similar situations as we are, you know, as we grew up in America, things like that. I'm not going to get into all that. But living with perspective, but also making decisions and thinking on the macro, but living your life in the micro. So basically what that means is understanding that you have so much time and learning to live with patience and make decisions with patience in mind, but actually living day-to-day life 1 day at a time, hour by hour, and being as present as possible while still making decisions for the future, because you have so much more time than what you think you do.
I love that. And hey, it's me, Steven, from Mike's position.
Did you switch to yourself? You switched to me?
No, I switched to you. But if I switch over
Do I need more
two,
Gary Vee?
it's going to be this slide right here. And if it's
all about perspective, man. If you don't get into the NFT game right now, I don't even know where you're at.
Are you the Joker right now? That's what it sounds like a little bit.
It's not turn. Yeah.
I'm not great at switching this, but I just found out that 3 is me over here. Hello, it's me, Steven, from the backseat right now. And I want to ask Eric a quick question from Instagram. First Ray Media asked, how do you manage filming and editing your YouTube socials and other sides of your business? Oh, sorry. Let me switch real quick to Braxton, because that's the answer for that question.
This is how he does it.
That beautiful boy over there?
Yeah.
He's the reason.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, before 4 months ago, it was.
Honestly, I don't know how you did it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a challenge, but when I get into 2020 was totally different because I wasn't shooting as many weddings. And then once I started shooting more weddings back in 2021, it became overwhelming, and I definitely needed someone to jump on and help if I was going to go at the rate I was going. So for me specifically in the season, it has been outsourcing. It has been hiring Braxton. It has been like outsourcing certain jobs to Steven, helping with editing. So the community around me has allowed me to do the volume of work I'm doing now. But yeah, I mean, a calendar year ago, I was handling it all by myself. And I guess it's just like I'm not an incredibly organized person. All these guys will tell you that I'm not the most organized person. But I am someone who will show up and get work done based on motivation a lot of times. Like I do feel like I have clarity on what could, the potential could be for a project and what it could mean in the future. And since that's the case, I try to accomplish those tasks. Like even something as silly as a meme video, like I posted today, like a joke. One of those posted last year, at the beginning of this year, and it was like the most viral video I've ever made, just because it was an idea I had. And so acting on things like that and giving those things priority, I think has led to more success with the marketing of my business. I don't know if that's a strong enough answer. But
yeah. A similar question before I give Mike's seat back to Mike. I just noticed my friend Deepak is in the chat right now. What's up, Deepak? Good to see you, man. Photographed his wedding back in January. And he actually asked, he just moved to California with his wife and his 4-month-old baby. And he is now a high school graphic design teacher. He is continuing to photograph weddings part-time. And he wants to ask you, Eric, how do you balance your work life with also having a family and particularly kids? And he also said hi to me. So hi, Deepak. Good to see you, man.
So I'm going to give the hot take of what it's been the past 2 months. It's not been healthy. And we all knew that it wasn't going to be that, with launching the classroom and shooting as many weddings as I'd be shooting, and the trip I just had to California to shoot a wedding. All of that stuff happened within the past 2 months. Me training for the marathon I'm shooting, the marathon I'm running in a week. All that stuff has all been colliding with each other in the past 2 months. And ultimately, like, I had very deep conversation with my wife about what this season would look like. And since last year was so much of me being at home and not doing things, we had tons of conversations about how this year was probably going to be everything a normal year is and more, because of how much was postponed from last year. And so that was the expectation we rode going into this year. And it has been nothing short of everything we imagined it would be, and
if
more, as far as amount of work needing to be done. But ultimately, I think the most healthy thing you can do in seasons like this and in work like this is just to have clear and consistent communication. So even in the classroom launch, even this entire week where I have not been around my family very much at all, I have had consistent nights where I've gone home and debriefed with my wife about every single day and what I'm going through, what she's going through, and how I can help and support in whatever capacity I can in, whatever circumstance I'm in. So ultimately, that's what it's all about. It's communication, and then having community around you to, like, Mike called me out 2 months ago where he's just like, you're having your 4th kid, you're launching this course. Is your wife taken care of? Have you had a discussion with her? And I was like, yes, I've had a discussion with her about all this stuff that's happening. And he's like, can you please check in with her again? And that night I went home and I had a conversation with her and I was like, Mike challenged me to ask you, is everything good? And her response was, you have communicated everything very clearly to me and my expectations have been met. I might not like them, but like, you have set the scene for how intense this season has been. And that has been my expectation. And for me, that meets the goal in that realm of communication where it's just like, we all knew that this is what was going to happen and all of those expectations were met. Do I want that to be the case in the future? No, I don't think this year will happen again in the future because of what we had last year. And my expectation is that I actually never want to work in the amount and intensity I've worked in the past 2 months ever again. And that is, so that this week is like, I made that YouTube video about the classroom and like how this is this kind of climactic moment in my career and life. And it couldn't be any more true. And it hasn't played out any more than true than what has happened. So I very much feel that right now. It's been very rewarding, but it's been very challenging. And I don't know if I would have it any other way. I've been wanting to release a course like this for years, and I've just been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And I wanted to do it last year and I wasn't able to do it. And we finally got the opportunity to do it. And it wasn't necessarily in the time frame we wanted, but we made something we are incredibly proud of. Yeah. And has already just like so many people have reached out to us saying how thankful they are that they made the purchase and all that stuff as well. Again, going down a rabbit hole. I guess this is the time where I talk about the classroom. I mean, like, yes, this live stream was an intentional thing that we wanted to plan to promote this course. I know that this, you might look at something like this and just be like, that is a stretch for me to invest in something like that. Wherever I'm at with my life and my, and I understand that. And I don't want anyone to feel like in the promotion we've been doing this past week, to feel like this is something you have to do or you don't love me. Like, I wanted to present this and wanted to offer this as an opportunity for people to extend their education and invest in themselves for their future, and for their business, and to be a worthwhile investment, both technically and philosophically, so that they can make more money for themselves. All the while, and this is full transparent me talking here, all the while recognizing that this is something that we've been working so hard on, and something that I've been working for like 3.5, 4 years, and coming to the moment. All of my knowledge on the topic of topics of wedding photography and wedding filmmaking. Ultimately, my biggest line in all of this has just been like, if I can help you book one more wedding, if it's in that like $2,000 range, which is normally the price that people get to in the first couple of years, if I can just get you one more, then this thing will pay for itself. And we've come up with plans to do that interest free over 6 months, to do that, or to pay up front if that's a possibility for you. I don't want anyone listening to any of this during this week to feel like they're pressured to make that decision. But from a marketing perspective, and us making this course and doing this, we believe in this thing. We believe that it is information that will make you more money, that will motivate you to grow your business and to let your business thrive and flourish. But with that, it comes with an investment in yourself and mitigating that and figuring out if that is worth it. And from the responses we've gotten from people, it's just been really cool to see. Like, we've had a flood of reviews come in today of just being like, this is 100% worth it. The production value and the content and all the stuff that's in it. Yeah. And as I said in the beginning of the live stream, if you were in it, you might have heard me be like, typically people want to do a webinar where they give a lesson and then they try to pitch their course. It just didn't feel like me to do that. I'm basically at a place where with the classroom, if you feel like you're on the fence, I want to be someone that's there. It's like, of course I want you to take this. I made this and I poured my heart into this, and we poured our hearts into this to make this the best we could, and to be as content rich as possible, and to provide you interest-free payments over 6 months and all this stuff. If you feel like that's something that you can invest, if you can invest in yourself in, that could be something that could be really impactful for you right now. That was for me when I decided to go to a workshop back in 2016 and repeatedly went 2-3 years in a row. That just radically changed the trajectory of my career and turned into what you're seeing right now with the diversification of my business and the success of my wedding photography and filmmaking business. And it's hard. It's hard for me to, like, I am someone that wants to wear my emotions on my sleeve and to be as transparent as possible. And doing something like marketing a course can feel very, very weird for me to just be like selling something. I've never really done that. But I want you all to know that I fully believe that this could be a motivational piece for you that could just literally transform your life. Yeah. So that was quite a tangent, but yeah.
Eric, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
You mentioned just now that you went to a workshop.
Yes.
Actually, the workshop, the Vowel-less
workshop.
Shout out Ryan Brown. Workshop. You went to that and you paid to go to that.
Yeah.
What compelled you to pay for an opportunity like that? And what did you get out of that?
There was this vibe factor where I went in just being like, this person is teaching and this person is teaching and that was honestly their marketing tactic of like, Ben Heish is going to be there. Jonas Peterson is going to be there. India Earl is going to be there. Kristen Marie Parker is going to be there. Like all these, like Jai Long, just like an endless list of legendary photographers. And I was at this point in my career where like, I don't know what presets I want to buy. I don't know my creative voice. I want to be that epic elopement photographer. I want to be traveling all over the place. And I went in with this perspective of like, these people are going to help me get the clout I want and help me become the legendary photographer I aim to be. And a superficial idea kind of drove me there. And when I got there, there was a resounding theme in the lessons of none of that matters. And I was just like everything was flipped upside down. Like Benj talked about your why, and Jonas talked about how the year he just had was the most stressful year of his life and he would never wish it on anyone. And I'm like, I don't want this. I actually care about all the things that they care about, actually. And it was this moment of like everything flipping, of like my perspective completely changed. And then my business, like when I came back with that perspective, my business did what I wanted it to do, but I didn't have the same mentality, and it did it without me having that superficial mentality. And I just can't speak highly enough about that moment in my life and what that all meant. But yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I actually have something I can add to that really quickly. I actually paid for a mentor session with Samuel Elkins.
I thought you were going to say Eric Floberg for a second. I really did.
No, I paid for a mentor session with Samuel Elkins at the beginning of 2020. And that's something that also like radically changed my career. So it was like right at the beginning of 2020. And even though he's not a wedding photographer, Samuel Elkins is still someone that I really have always looked up to, and someone that their work has always really inspired me. And when he posted on his story that he was doing mentor sessions, I didn't even look at how much it costed or anything. I literally I clicked purchase, I put in my PayPal information and closed my eyes. And I was actually the first person. Yeah, I was the first person to purchase the mentor session and actually talk with him. And after talking with him, we ended up like the mentor session was like an hour, and we ended up talking for like 2.5 or something like that, because he's such a great guy.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. But just by talking to him and him telling me, like, because like I just laid it all out there about like where I wanted to be, but where also I was at the moment. And him just giving me that little bit of not only information, but motivation to accomplish the things that I'm capable of. Honestly, I think I needed validation out of it more than anything, was him telling me that like I'm capable of these things. But I look back at that now after, literally within a year of having that, within a year and now and a half, if not more, what I've accomplished since then. I've worked with brands that I never thought in a million years I would work with. Never thought I'd be sitting here on this live stream with Eric Floberg and Steven and Mike. Just by having that 1 2-hour mentor session with Samuel Elkins is like invaluable to what it impacted my career. And I honestly, this sounds so corny, but I legitimately don't know where I would be if I wouldn't have had that conversation with Samuel.
I never knew you did this.
Yes, I did.
When in 2020 was this?
This was like, it was pretty close to lockdown, I think.
Because Eric and I flew to LA to shoot a video for Eric's channel with Sam in March.
I think it was in March.
Or sorry, February. It was like the very end of February.
It was like February, March.
This is the exact same time.
Yes.
Our paths all crossed at the exact same time.
I was the first person to have a mentor session with Samuel Elkins.
That's wild.
And it was like legitimately, it was invaluable to my career. It was so much information and so much help.
It's because he's a wonderful person.
He is.
And he's so talented.
Yeah, Sam, shout out to Sam.
Hey, Sam, we love you so much. We love you so much. You're the best.
Epic.
Great. One last question.
Yeah, let's hit it.
One last question to rule them all. I'm just kidding.
Gene?
No.
Is that you?
No. If you could boil down the philosophy of your business down to one word, what would it be?
I saw this question earlier today, and I immediately just clung to service, just being someone who serves. And that's serving your clients, that's serving the people that work for you, that's serving other vendors in the industry, that's serving anybody that comes across your path in your business journey. Bringing value to the people, anybody that you interact with, people who pay you, people who get you work, people who don't make you any money. Serving people and showing up and providing value for anybody along the way is going to get you more work. And just always having that mentality, always expecting nothing in return of you doing something to bring value to other people's lives and to help them. And yeah, that's just, I think that's a wrap on all of this. I appreciate all of you being here. It's been an incredible night. Shout out to Mike for just setting all of this up. Cut to the wide. Everybody clap it up in the chat. Yes.
Mike is the best.
Honestly, does this have to end? I'm kind of sad.
I know.
Yeah. Can we just hang out? Do you guys want to hang out with us?
We need to keep. We need
Can
to
this be Creative Club After Dark?
I've been pitching Creative Club After Dark for over a month now.
Wait, no, sorry. Not to step on anyone's toes, but hey everyone, welcome back to Rally Caps, a podcast for the
This is next week's
This
episode
is now
that
next
we're
week's
not
episode
having.
because we have no episode planned.
Good night, Paula. Good night.
Thank you everybody for being here.
Yes.
And yeah, just to do the due diligence of what I said earlier, you can check out education.ericfloberg.com to check out the classroom. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm answering all Instagram DMs about the classroom this entire week through Monday. The classroom will not be available after Monday at midnight. Enrollment closes at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, right at midnight at the end of Monday. So if you're on the fence about getting into the classroom and enrolling in it, that's when it's going to end. Yeah. And you can also text me at, let's see if I remember, 312-847-2285, and I will respond to that text as well. We love you all.
Love you.
Love
to
you.
that wide, Mike.
Thanks for
Yep.
watching and listening.
Woo!
Catch you in the next episode of Rally Caps.
Stop it.
And the next episode of Creative Club After Dark.